WooGs here. Just gonna do a kind of run through of the hardcore kill I just did. This is based off of the kill that Stoic used for number 2 on hardcore. It's really centered around throw barb, but bleed as the kind of main DPS mechanic here. Kind of go through the stats here a little bit as before we jump into the fight. But basically 50 PDR once I have my APO and such on, and then 90 max res. What we're doing here is just getting our frenzy stacks up because they do carry over into the fight, so you don't have to waste the first, 1 or 2 rejuves, kind of trying to get your stacks up. You can see here I'm able to get max frames with this setup, 78 there for 6 frames, so that's kind of the idea here. So the main thing of this build is actually the offhand, which is I'm using a lacerator with life after each hit, which doesn't really do much for the declone part, but for the skelly phase it kind of means that you're getting every bounce and hit of your throw is actually causing, that 6 life after each hit to kind of apply. So it kind of keeps your health topped up during the skelly phases. So you can kind of just only pot on, mana pots or some big chunk damage. So all you have to do is kind of keep your eye on your frenzy to make sure it's up every, 25 seconds. And here you see this is going to be the first skelly phase. And what we're doing is we're just trying to cover as much ground as we can. I didn't really need to pot there. I wasn't quite used to this life after each hit setup. I didn't say I practiced it enough. But what we're trying to do is just really apply our bleed as much as we can. And then kind of just run around and kind of extend the fight and let the bleed kind of go down. Since we've maxed deep wounds, the synergy is also Grim Ward, so we are placing a Grim Ward as well for the extra big damage and attack rating. The issue in this fight is even without a Natures, you can't use Grim Ward on the skeletons like you can in Rathma, so you have to use Desecrate there from Venom. You see I actually dropped Frenzy there. That was a big mistake that cost me quite a few rejuves. You'll see how long it takes me to get this Frenzy stack back up. I'm just trying to keep the bleed stacks on them while I redo this Frenzy stack. So you really don't want this to happen. This is costing, quite a bit of time and rejuves. And more or less frustration as well, because I'm just really annoyed that happened, because there's not really a reason not for it to drop. You have so many pillars you can activate on, and you'll see later I don't drop it again because I just pay attention. I think I just kind of woke up and did this one, didn't really have any practice there. Yeah, and I like to, use this pillar, as people know. I think any pillar is fine. This was not really ideal phase because I was standing in a fire patch, but the whole thing was kind of patched, so there's not much I could do. But you really want to make sure you hit the pillar right when you walk in, so you can keep your frenzy stack up, so you don't have to worry about that during the cold phases. So here, you're just going to try to get him close to a pillar, so you can keep your bleed stacks up. And try not to walk out of the immunity range, but you don't want to be taking unnecessary damage, so it's okay to walk out once in a while, like I'm doing, and then just get back in and get the stacks back up again. See, so now that we're on the next phase here, we will pot once in a while here, just because of, 1, not being really used to it, but 2, there is a bit of spike damage once in a while. But you can really sit at about half health. Probably even lower, to be honest, but that's kind of where I was comfortable doing it. With more practice, you could go even lower, I would say. And then your life after each hit should re-top you up. You can see there kind of how it's really working quite well to keep your life up. I do a couple extra pots that are really necessary. You can almost get away with only potting for mana on a good phase here, if you're able to dodge the hose and meteors, because the archer damage and such shouldn't really take you down, because the life after each hit should be fine. once there's less and less skeletons out, you're getting obviously less life back, and that's when you kind of might need to pot. But the main thing is mana, which is something I couldn't really solve, even with mana leech, anything like that. You're gonna run out of mana here, just because of the drain effectiveness they have is pretty high, pretty low. So you're not really getting much back, and I have a more of a lower damage setup because it's so focused on bleed that your life leech or mana leech isn't that high. So the idea here is really just more of a budget kind of setup. I say budget, but it's really when you're before you're able to craft a really good weapon is kind of the idea. So there we kind of stacked our frenzy and then ran to this pillar. It's good to have practice under every pillar. I don't really like the top pillar, but every other pillar is fine to be behind. Generally, I moved there because I was worried that there was too many spirits for fire patches, but I kind of still got stuck in a bit of fire patch there, so. Oh, sorry about that, I moved my mouse there, that's great. So there's not too much interesting really here besides, there's a lot to do with bleed. I think there's a bit more you can do with a higher budget on bleed, which I'll talk about later. But this is kind of a bit not perfect here, so it's kind of I'm hitting 100% open wounds with my lacerator, but not my other hand. I think if you had 100% off gear, or your main weapon also had open wounds, so it was 100% on each side, I think that would make the fight a lot easier. You get your max stacks up much quicker, especially on the skelly phases and such. You see, we're taking quite a bit of damage in this phase, mostly because I'm not throwing enough here. I should, have a bit more bounces going. There's a bit of time between that, so I should be kind of trying to get to a safe spot and keeping the bounces up, and I would get a lot more life after each hit, but it is keeping me topped up between my potions. I'm just trying to keep my belts at an okay spot until that's a bit safer to refill. And I'm trying to redo my frenzy basically every second pillar. You can pretty much run around the arena once and then refill your frenzy is kind of the time, but it's kind of up to you. I always keep it on hotkey. You can kind of do what makes sense for you, but whatever. I don't really like it on left or right click. I don't want to be randomly running up to people. I want to have run and throw only, so I'm not running in a direction I don't want to run. Now this was a really unlucky, I don't know, maybe not unlucky, bad on my part. I couldn't see that skeleton, and then I also thought that was the end of that phase, but there was another skeleton that I didn't see, so I kind of was walking into a lot of damage and wasting time there, so bit frustrating. And you could hear the amp. I have amp on both weapons, which does nothing for this fight because of their immune, and DClone has such high curse resistance that it automatically pops off, so there's not really a point of having amp. It's just Lacerator is just really nice because of the bleed damage it has on there. I was hoping I could pop all the fire patches on that pillar I was walking back, but it didn't really work. But I was comfortable enough with the number of pots left, so I just kind of sat in that fire there. Now having him around the pillar like this is kind of ideal. I didn't really need to run away there. I think I was just, playing it a bit safe for the hardcore. But you see, like this is a perfect spot where he is. If I just stay in the he moved on his own, which is a bit annoying, but if you kind of stay in that non-immunity area for him and let that bleed kind of tick down and just reapply, his health will go down quite quickly, because you can see how much faster it's going down here, and there it is. So that's, yeah, fifth one on hardcore, but really I just wanted to showcase this setup, which is the bleed life after each hit. Again, Stoic used this on his number 2 kill, and this is kind of just what we were able to put together at this time of ladder for my showcase here a little bit. I just wanted to show a bit something different. on hardcore, just kind of fun that way. I will go through the gear in a second. Like I said, I have 100% open wounds, but only on my lacerator side, because yeah, that's where you see the 105 with 3,800 bleed. So this amp here, and this is not the greatest weapon for DClone. It's not doing too much, but it works. It's a 3 mastery plus 1. It's kind of just a 2-socket helm, really. It's a nice stat amulet. There's the life after each hit. That's the key. You have to get this on a slam. You can't get this otherwise. You could get it on both weapons. I think one is enough, but you kind of want damage on the other hand if you can. So this is a blood craft you can do. You just want PDR and open wounds. It doesn't take too long to get. One with 30 strength though might take a little while there. The mana stolen per hit, nature's piece. I don't really know if it's necessary, but kind of just use that. Levy, that's kind of what we had. It's not great, to be honest. I don't really like it. It's my highest strength gear. That's why I had to strength bug every time my character, but it's fine. There's the Venom and CTA is what I'm using to get Desecrate, and that's how I'm getting my Grimward up there. You can see 280% damage, 730 flat AR. We're using all Mastery Grand Charms except for one all res, and just some really not that great charms for small charms in Annie. So nothing really special. The glaive looks really nice, but it's actually not that great of one. You can get away with a lot less. But here, this is what we're keeping also. Max deep wounds, 1 point throwing mastery only, max frenzy and double throw. I then have a bunch of points, I think 6 to get my 79 IAS. And then I'm dumping the rest into battle orders. And yeah, that's really it. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Good luck out there. Cheers.